Our manager thought he could get away with denying a distinguished guest his confirmed reservation, right in front of a packed house. He had no idea that his casual act of bigotry was about to cost him everything. The clatter of silverware and the low hum of 100 conversations. That was the soundtrack to my Friday night. I was a server at the Gilded Spoon, one of those trendy downtown spots that's always packed, always loud, and always just a little bit pretentious. The kind of place where the salads cost $30 and people Instagram their food before they eat it. I was in the weeds, juggling 4 tables, a demanding couple in the corner, and a kitchen that was already running behind. But at the center of this controlled chaos was our manager, Mr. Harrison. Mr. Harrison was a man who polished his shoes more than he smiled. He had this slick, practiced veneer of professional charm that you could scratch away with a fingernail to find the cheap plastic underneath. He cared about one thing and one thing only: the restaurant's image. Our clientele was mostly wealthy, mostly white, and he liked it that way. He never said it out loud, of course, but you could see it in the way he'd give a preferential table to a familiar face, or the way his eyes would skim over certain customers at the door. That night, the entrance chimed, and an older gentleman stepped inside, shaking a light rain from his overcoat. He was black, probably in his late 60s, and impeccably dressed in a tailored suit that likely cost more than my month's rent. He had a kind, dignified air about him, and he gave the bustling hostess a warm, genuine smile. The hostess was new and flustered, so I stepped in. "Good evening, sir. Welcome to the Gilded Spoon. Do you have a reservation?" I asked, grabbing a menu. "I do," he said, his voice calm and steady. "A table for one, under the name Davies." I ran my finger down the reservation list on the tablet. "Ah, yes, Mr. Davies. We have you right here. Table 12, by the window. It's the best seat in the house. Right this way." I took a step to lead him into the dining room, but a hand shot out and gripped my arm. It was Harrison. He'd materialized beside me like a bad smell, his smile fixed in place, but it didn't reach his eyes. His eyes were like chips of ice, and they were locked on Mr. Davies. "I'll handle this, Chloe," he said, his voice low and tight. He squeezed my arm a little harder, a clear warning. "But, sir, his reservation is confirmed." "Table 12?" I whispered, confused. Harrison completely ignored me. He turned his full, frosty attention to the customer. "Good evening, sir. I'm afraid there seems to have been a mix-up with our booking system. We're fully committed for the evening." The lie was so bold-faced, so utterly shameless, I felt my jaw go slack. The restaurant was full, yes, but table 12 was sitting there, empty and waiting, a single white napkin folded perfectly in the center. Mr. Davies didn't flinch. His polite smile remained, though it seemed a little sadder now. "A mix-up. That's unfortunate. I did call to confirm my booking just this morning." The background noise of the restaurant was beginning to die down. The tables closest to the entrance were starting to notice the tense little drama unfolding. People were lowering their forks, their conversations faltering. Harrison's face was starting to flush a deep, blotchy red. He hated being questioned. "The system can be unreliable," Harrison said through gritted teeth. "As I said, we have no room. Perhaps another establishment would be more suitable." The unspoken words, "for you," hung in the air, thick and poisonous. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab the reservation tablet and shove it in Harrison's smug face. But I was a student, and I needed this job. All I could do was stand there, frozen in a sickening mix of anger and shame. Mr. Davies simply looked at Harrison, a long, searching look that seemed to see right through him. The entire entrance was now silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Then a slow, knowing smile spread across Mr. Davies's face. It wasn't a happy smile. It was a smile of profound disappointment, and something else I couldn't quite place. He reached into his suit pocket, Not for his wallet, but for his phone. Harrison's eyes narrowed. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. You're holding up our entrance." Mr. Davies held up a single finger, requesting a moment of silence, and put the phone to his ear. The call connected on the first ring. The whole restaurant was watching now, completely captivated. "Hello?" Mr. Davies said into the phone, his voice as calm as a placid lake. "Yes, it's me. There seems to be a slight problem with my dinner reservation. I'm at the Gilded Spoon. Could you come down and sort it out?" "Yes. Downstairs." "Thanks." He hung up the phone and slipped it back into his pocket, his gaze never leaving Harrison's face. The manager let out a short, derisive laugh. "Calling for backup, are we? Sir, I don't know who you think you are, but this is a private establishment. I'm giving you 10 seconds to leave before I call security and have you escorted out." He puffed out his chest, a petty king defending his plastic throne. The entire restaurant was frozen, a tableau of shocked faces and half-eaten entrees. You could feel the collective intake of breath, everyone waiting to see what would happen next. Mr. Davies didn't move. He just stood there, a pillar of calm in the storm of Harrison's making. The 10 seconds ticked by in agonizing silence. Harrison reached for the phone at the hostess stand, his finger hovering over the speed dial for security. And then a door opened. It wasn't the main entrance. It was a discreet, unmarked wooden door next to the bar. One I'd always assumed led to a supply closet or the staff changing rooms. From it emerged a man in his late 30s, dressed in a suit that made Harrison's look like it came from a discount store. He had the same sharp, intelligent eyes as Mr. Davies, but his were edged with a look of stern concern. He scanned the silent dining room, his gaze sweeping over the gawking customers, my own terrified face and Harrison's pompous posture, before finally landing on the older gentleman. A wave of whispers rippled through the room. The man walked directly to Mr. Davies, his expensive leather shoes making soft, authoritative clicks on the polished floor. He placed a hand on the older man's shoulder. "Dad," he said, his voice low but carrying with absolute clarity in the sudden hush. "Is there a problem here?" "Dad." The word detonated in the room. I watched the color drain from Harrison's face. It was like watching a building collapse in slow motion. His jaw fell open, his smug superiority crumbling into a mask of pure, unadulterated panic. He looked from Mr. Davies to the younger man, his eyes wide with dawning horror. A tidal wave of realization was washing over him, and he was drowning in it. Mr. Croft!" Harrison stammered, his voice a pathetic squeak. "Sir, I had no idea. This gentleman, there was a booking error. A simple misunderstanding." The younger man, Mr. Croft, turned his head slowly, fixing Harrison with a look so cold it could have frozen fire. "A misunderstanding? That's interesting, because I personally made this reservation for my father 2 weeks ago. I told him he had to try the new chef's tasting menu, and I specifically requested table 12 for him." He gestured towards the empty table by the window. "So please, Harrison, enlighten me. What part of that was misunderstood?" Harrison began to sweat, visible beads forming on his forehead. "The system? The computers? Sometimes they glitch, sir. It's completely my fault. I should have double-checked." "Mr." Croft held up a hand, and Harrison fell silent instantly, like a puppet whose strings had been cut. He then turned his gaze to me. "You were with him when he arrived," he said. It wasn't a question. What happened? My heart was pounding in my chest, but I met his gaze. I took a deep breath and told him everything, my voice clear and steady. I told him how Mr. Davies had a confirmed reservation, how I was about to seat him, and how Mr. Harrison had stepped in, lied about the restaurant being full, and told him to leave. When I finished, the silence was deafening. Mr. Croft nodded slowly. A deep, simmering anger in his eyes. He looked at his father, who gave a slight, sad shake of his head. Then he turned back to Harrison, who now looked like he was about to be physically sick. "I see," Mr. Croft said, his voice dangerously quiet. He took a step closer to the hostess stand, his presence commanding the entire room. He addressed not just Harrison, but everyone. "Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Julian Croft, and contrary to what this man's behavior would suggest, I am the owner of this restaurant." A collective gasp went through the dining room. Harrison looked like he might faint. "And as the owner," Julian Croft continued, his voice rising, "I believe in certain standards. Standards of quality, service, and basic human decency. Standards that have clearly not been met tonight." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. "Therefore, I'm making a new policy, effective immediately." He looked directly at Harrison, a cruel, cold smile playing on his lips. "Starting with you." "Starting with me?" Harrison echoed, his voice cracking. The sweat was now streaming down his face, his starched collar wilting under the heat of 100 pairs of eyes. "Yes, Harrison, starting with you," Julian Croft said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "You seem to believe that you are the gatekeeper of this establishment, deciding who is and who isn't suitable to dine here. That is not your job. Your job, which you've just failed at spectacularly, is to manage this restaurant with professionalism and respect. For everyone." He turned to the stunned dining room. "My sincerest apologies to all of you for this disgraceful scene. This is not what the Gilded Spoon stands for." Then his voice boomed, clear and decisive. "Tonight, everything is on the house." A wave of murmurs and appreciative whispers spread through the crowd. A few people even started to applaud. Julian Croft held up his hand for silence. "This is not a celebration. This is an apology. An apology for the prejudice my father was just subjected to at the door of my own restaurant." He then turned his laser focus back on Harrison. "You're fired, of course. Pack up your things from your office. I want you out of this building in 10 minutes. Harrison's face contorted in a mixture of disbelief and desperation. "Mr. Croft, please. I've been with you for 5 years. It was a mistake, an error in judgment. I swear it will never happen again." "You're right, it won't," Julian said coldly. "Because you will never work here again. You won't work in any of my restaurants again. I will personally call every owner I know in this city and tell them exactly why I let you go. An error in judgment is spilling wine on a customer's shirt. What you did was an act of deliberate, ugly bigotry, and it has no place here. Now get out." Defeated, Harrison's shoulders slumped. He shot a venomous glare in my direction, as if it were my fault, before turning and slinking away toward the back office, the jeers and stares of the entire restaurant following him like a physical force. Julian Croft watched him go, then his expression softened as he turned back to his father. "Dad, I am so sorry. I wanted tonight to be special for you." Mr. Davies placed a comforting hand on his son's arm. "It wasn't your fault, Julian, but I am very proud of the man you just showed yourself to be." Julian smiled, then looked at me. "And you," he said, his voice warm with genuine appreciation. "Chloe, was it? Thank you for telling the truth, even when it was difficult. You showed more character in those 2 minutes than he did in 5 years." I felt a blush creep up my neck. "I was just doing what was right, sir." "Well, doing what's right deserves to be rewarded. As of this moment, you're the new floor manager. The position comes with a significant raise. We can discuss the details tomorrow if you're interested." My jaw must have hit the floor. "Manager?" I could barely process the words. Yes, of course." "Thank you, Mr. Croft, thank you," I stammered, overwhelmed with shock and gratitude. He gave me a warm, reassuring nod before addressing his father. "Now, Dad, I believe your table is ready. The best seat in the house." He personally escorted Mr. Davies to the now famous table 12. pulled out the chair for him, and made sure he was settled comfortably. The restaurant, which had been holding its breath, finally exhaled. The buzz of conversation slowly returned, but it was different now. The air felt lighter, clearer. People were smiling, nodding in our direction, a shared sense of justice having been served. Julian came back to the hostess stand. "Chloe," he said, handing me the reservation tablet, "you're in charge for the rest of the night. Comp every bill. Make sure every single guest leaves here feeling valued. Can you do that?" I stood up a little straighter, a newfound confidence surging through me. I looked out at the dining room, at the guests, at Mr. Davies enjoying a quiet moment by the window, and I felt a deep sense of pride. This was a place I could be proud to work. "Yes, Mr. Croft," I said, my voice firm and clear. "I can.